Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and $1 million. It really does sound like a lot of money, but is it enough to actually retire with? And if you're watching this video, you might be super young or you might be super old and you're like, yo, I'm about to retire. I'm gonna retire maybe like in 20, 30 years. But the important thing, guys, is that this video right here, in a lot of ways, it could save you thousands and it could save you from a life of, hey, I just retired and I don't have any money whatsoever. And obviously, a lot of things can impact retirement. Anything from, for example, inflation, market crashes, or for example, hey, where you live. But most importantly, it's all gonna come down to how much money you actually have. So in this video right here, I'll tell you if 1 million is enough. I'll tell you how much to invest to actually get there in 30 years. I'll tell you how much time that's actually going to last you and if it's actually going to be enough. But not just that though, because by the end of this video, I'll also tell you how to retire in half the time. So not at 65, but maybe in your 40s. And I'll also tell you how to retire with less than $1 million, maybe half of that, and still live a very great life where you're able to travel and really do everything you want to do. But of course, not like being irresponsible, but being responsible while you actually do it. But a lot more freedom if you ask me. So if this sounds good, do me a favor, smash the like button on top of that. Also, if you're new here, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you get notified. Now, the first thing I really want to answer here is, guys, basically, Tommy, how much money do I need to invest per month to actually get to $1 million, for example, in 30 years? The answer is, you might be surprised, it's not really that much money. It's just a few $100s every so month. To be exact, if you make 12% of your money, you only need to invest around $345.29. So meaning if you have a 401k or a Roth IRA or Roth 401k or 403b plan or any retirement plan, and you just send over there, for example, $345.29, depending on your portfolio, if it's good, and also the fees, guess what? You will get to $1 million in basically 30 years. But not just that, because that's not the only factor here. And it's, Tommy, okay, so if I got to $1 million in 30 years, by 2062, well, how much money is that really going to be worth? Because I know about inflation, which basically means, well, when I was a kid, Doritos used to cost like 25 cents. Today they cost $1. What does that mean? Things get more expensive. The value of $1 basically goes down. So 1 million in 30 years is not really 1 million today. You know what I mean? So how much is it actually going to be worth? Well, the answer is somewhere around $372,431 is going to be the buying power of $1 million then. And you might ask, Tommy, how long can that last me? Again, assuming you're 65 years old, assuming you take out, for example, 50K a year, that might last you 20 years or so. But remember, 50K 30 years from now is really only about $18,000, which in reality is not that much money. And yes, I know about SSI, you might include that in there, but in reality, it's really not that much money. So you might be looking at, hey, can this last me 10 years? Can this last me, for example, a few years? The answer is, it depends on a lot of factors, your expenses, if the market crashes, what's actually going on. A lot of things matter here. So when I break things down like this, guys, it really does seem like, hey, Tommy, $1 million, I don't think is actually going to be enough. And that's why we're watching this video, to figure out how to make sure you actually have enough by retirement. So the next question I want to answer is basically, well, how do I know exactly how much money I'm actually going to need by retirement? Well, obviously, one thing you want to do, simple, is you want to calculate or estimate what your expenses, what they're actually going to be when you actually retire. Some of you guys are a lot older, so you might already know this stuff, but some of you guys are actually a lot older. So you might think about like, hey, whatever my number is, let me just add an extra $100 to $200 because basically things are going to get more expensive, or just adjust that number for inflation by using an online calculator out there. Because again, $1 today is not $1 tomorrow. It's going to be a lot more to buy the same exact ish. So when you think about it, your main expenses are going to be what? They're going to be, for example, shelter. So are you renting? Do you have a mortgage? Or are you mortgage free? Did you pay off the house? What's your goal there? You know, most people, they might have a mortgage. Most people, they might be still renting. But I recommend make That's your goal, to retire with no mortgage, which basically means just taxes and insurance. I don't know, that might be like around $400, not that crazy. And next, you might have, for example, the car payment. Kind of crazy. You see a lot of old folks that have like this entire episode where they all want a Corvette and they all want to spend all their money because they just want to have like this period and stuff like that. And I get it, cool stuff, but don't do that. Kind of stupid. But for example, the big thing is just make sure that by the time you retire, make one of your goals, okay? One of my goals is when I retire, I don't want to have a car payment. I want to have a paid off car. So what do I worry about? I worry about insurance, maintenance, and also, for example, gas. And that might be, for example, $300. So again, remember, adjust for inflation and everything else. Those things are going to happen. Then you have utilities. I might say $400, but in reality, if we live, for example, in a solar planet where everything is solar, you might be looking at, hey, I don't really pay for utilities that much anymore. Or you might be paying a lot more. Who knows? A lot can happen in 30 years. Then you have, for example, taxes. This is very tricky, okay? Because even if you have like SSI, which is basically like Social Security income, well, guess what, all right? You can be taxed on that. So if you make a lot of money from that, you'll be taxed on it. If you make, for example, not that much, you won't be taxed that much, but a portion of it is going to be taxed. And not just that, if you have, for example, a 401k, you got to worry about RMD, basically retirement manual distributions. Meaning, for example, you know how a 401k works, which is basically, Tommy, I get to invest money without paying tax on it. So it grows basically tax-free and it's money before I pay tax on it, so I have a lot more money there. Cool stuff. But the IRS, at the end of the day, they're going to want their money. So they're not going to wait until you die. They're going to wait until like you're like around 7 years old and say, hey, you got to start taking out money now, immediately, like manually, or we will penalize you. So you might be looking at, hey, I got to take money out. So that $1 million with the taxes might turn into like around 800K or like 700K. So the best way to avoid this is basically you invest into your Roth because you pay tax on it before you invest it, which means it grows tax-free and you don't have to take it out when they want to, and there's also no tax attached to it. And that's awesome. Or you might have, for example, a Roth 401k plan. You might do, for example, a backdoor Roth, which basically means, hey, if I have money in my 401k, I'll roll over into my traditional IRA and roll that over into my Roth IRA, and that way I can avoid this whole nightmare in the future. The way I think about it is honestly, when am I gonna need all my money? When I retire. So I don't really want any benefits right now. I want all the benefits then. So that way, that 1 million is actually 1 million then. So Roth options, even for example, for the 403b options that are actually out there for teachers and people that work in social services. But that's the idea right there. Taxes are no joke. They're tricky and they're always going to be around until the day you die. Okay? I'm just being honest here. And then you have, for example, health insurance. Guess what? That's not that cool in America. And you might be looking at, if you're 60, the average amount is around $543. To me, that's a lot of money if you ask me, okay? Not a joke either. And lastly, you have fun, because what's the point of retirement if you can't even have fun? And that might be, for example, $500. So in total, when you add these random numbers up, your numbers should not be random. This should be more accurate. But this right here is an example, so you kind of get the picture. What you want to do is say, well, Tommy, if I add all these numbers up, all of my monthly expenses for retirement, in this case, I'm looking at $2,443. What do you want to do next? Multiply this number by 12. So that way you know exactly what your annual cost actually is. In this case, multiply by 12, that's around $29,316. Now, how do I find out how much money do I need to have invested into my account to actually pay me this much money in passive income every single year? Simple. Just multiply the number by 25 and it tells you. So multiply by 25, well, the answer is $732,900. I always mix that up. I'm supposed to say $732,900. I always put the dollar in front, but who cares? But this is how much money you're going to need in there. And you might say, Tommy, this right here is way too much money. Again, all I did was get the monthly expenses, multiply by 12 to get the annual cost, and then multiply that number by 25, and that's how much money I'm going to need in my portfolio to actually be able to retire, not including the extra income from SSI. But that money, I don't want to put it in there because basically like a little cushion in case your portfolio crashes, and that might happen. Who knows? Things happen here. So when you think about it, well, how much money am I going to have to invest to actually get to that amount? What you want to do is go on Google, type in savings goal calculator, type in basically the number you want to save up to, the time, and it tells you exactly how much time or how much you're going to invest to actually get there in a safely manner. In my case, 30 years, 12% return. I'm looking at around, for example, $200, I think, and $53.06. So not really that much money. But in reality, guys, it really doesn't end here, because it means that if you have a lot of expenses, 1 million is not enough because of inflation and everything else. If you do this way, for example, it's a lot of money, you can get there, but it's kind of like there's a lot more you actually need to handle so you can actually make sure that you're actually solid. And here are the 3 things that are actually going to save you from a disaster of retirement. First things first, you can't be scared. So that's why your investments, they have to be diversified in such a fashion that the only way things might crash or look very ugly is if the entire world looks ugly. Meaning you want to be diversified, for example, in the US, internationally, small cap, real estate. You might have some bonds in there also. That way you're really diversified. And if you don't know what to invest into, I have a link down below. Or just look up, for example, how to invest TommyBryson on YouTube. You'll find a video on it also. But I have a link down below, on Finance, which shows you exactly how I invest. So this way, you have very low fees, like literally like nothing almost. And then you also have a portfolio that the likelihood of it crashing is actually pretty low because basically you're very well diversified. So the first thing is, when you get to retirement, don't be scared and don't say, well, I'm going to take all of my money and put it into bonds. I would only do that if I have a bunch of extra money to actually outlast inflation and everything, because bonds might not grow, but if you have $10 million paying you 2% or 5%, it's a lot of money, okay? So bonds make sense when you have a lot of money, but they don't make sense if you don't have that much money and you still need the money to actually keep growing. Second thing that's gonna save you from a bad retirement is following the 4% rule, which basically means you're going to live off a portfolio by only taking 4% of it every single year. Now, I remember I read this article by Dave Ramsey, and he was like, your portfolio, the capital in there is like the goose, and the eggs are actually, for example, like the income you actually make from there, like the actual return, like the interest you actually make. So I might have $1 million in capital, that's the goose, but the return I actually get, that 10% or 12%, that $100,000 to $120,000 a year, those are the eggs. So as long as you keep taking the eggs and you don't take the capital, the answer is you don't run out of money. So the 4% rule says that if you have $1 million and you take out 4%, that means $40,000 a year. That's all you take out, which basically means that money keeps growing at 12% or 10%, which means you won't run out of money. And the market crashes for like 25 years, you still don't run out of money for around 33 years, which basically means you're going to be solid. Because if you retire at 65, well, you run out of money by like 98, okay? And by 98, like, are you really gonna be around? You know, I don't wanna be morbid, but what are the odds you're actually gonna be around by 98? You might be, but you might really not, okay? So that's the cool thing there. And the last most important thing to avoid a disaster when it comes to retirement is basically having low core expenses. So having a paid off home, having no debt, having a paid off car, having low utility costs, having groceries but not really that crazy, having transportation taken care of, right? All these things matter because the lower your expenses are, and if you have a lot more money coming in, you're always gonna have, for example, like this like extra money in case anything is wrong. So that way you're always solid and good to go. So my goal is, well, when I retire, I wanna have a paid off home. I wanna have no debt. I wanna have a large investment account. I wanna have low expenses. So this way, all of my extra money is just extra. And if I wanna use it for something else, I can use it for something else. And that's the big benefit here. But what if, and by the way, this video is long, so if you made it to this point, then leave a like and comment down below. Let me know like, hey Tommy, I made it, so I know you made it. But overall, the last thing I really want to say is, you know, this stuff sounds pretty cool. Like, Tommy, I'm actually able to do this, like $300, $200, and I'm actually able to get there and retire in 30 years. Like, it sounds cool, honestly, right? But when you think about it, if you're a man, a male, insurance companies say that you basically are going to live until 75 years old, according to statistics. And if you're a woman, female, you're only going to be like around until 80 years old. You know, a little longer than us, but in reality, 65 minus 80, that's 15 years. 75 minus 65, that's 10 years. So you're looking at around 10 to 15 years of retirement. And whenever I think about that, I'm just like, are you telling me that I have to wait until I'm 65 years old to actually enjoy my life? I just can't stand that idea. So how do you do it in half the time with half the money? The answer is you gotta be a little crazy, if I'm being honest with you, okay? So step by step, A to D here is fairly simple. First things first, you gotta pay off your debt. The faster you're basically debt free, the method I use called the avalanche method. Look it up. Just look up avalanche method, TommyBryson. You'll know exactly what it is. But the answer is by having no debt, it means I have extra income to actually go ahead and do other things that are actually going to benefit me. It means I'm not making other people rich. I'm going to make myself rich. So get rid of all the debt except the mortgage. B is save for emergencies, 3 to 6 months. At one point in life, you're going to lose your job. So you want to have the security in there to take care of things when things go wrong, because they will go wrong at some point. And then C is 2 things here. You want to invest 10 to 20% of your money every single month, which basically means, hey, if you make $4,000 a month, well, multiply by 0.2, which is 20%, that's $800. That's 2 times more or 4 times more than the average person is going to be investing. So that means you're going to get to your investment goal a lot faster than the average person, okay? So that's the cool thing. You max out your Roth with that and slip money, for example, into your Roth 401k with your employer, which is incredible, and the average person is not doing that. Now, why you do this automatically, right? The rest of the money, you can basically use it to buy a home and pay it off in 10 to 15 years. Tommy, that's impossible. It's impossible if you buy a big, fancy, expensive home you can't afford. But if you buy a home that's only 1/3 of your monthly income on a 15-year mortgage, and you have extra money left over, and you put that extra towards a mortgage, you'll be done in 8 to 10 years on average, which basically means, imagine you're 30 years old or you're 40. By 50 or by 40, you have a paid off mortgage, you have no debt, you have a large investment account, and now what do you do next? What's D? D is basically you keep investing forever. That never stops because you want to keep growing that. You keep working the job if you like it. Or, for example, with all the extra money, you can do whatever you want because your expenses are so low. So now you're like 40, 50 years old, a lot sooner. You have a job you enjoy. You still make income from that. You're basically retired. You have no mortgage or no rent. You have everything's paid off. You have an investment account that's large. You have an emergency account also, and you also have no debt. It's just an overall amazing feeling. And that's how basically you can do this like a lot faster, but it does take a lot of sacrifice. In reality, you're not going to be doing all the fun stuff all your friends are going to be doing if you want to get somewhere 15 to 25 years faster than your friends are actually going to get there. It takes sacrifice, okay? That's the main thing. So you got to be a little nuts to actually do this. And if you're down for the challenge to work on this for 2022, I guess we're in 2022 now, comment down below and let me know, what's your goal for this year? Is it to become debt free? If you're done with that, is it to have an emergency account? If you're done with that, is it to start investing money, or to start saving up for a home, or just to, hey, I'm already done with all that stuff, I just want to enjoy life? Comment down below and let me know exactly at what phase are you actually in. But guys, overall, I hope this video actually helped you. I know it's long, but the whole goal is to say, hey, $1 million is really not that much money when you have to make it last 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's a long time. And we're all going to make $1 million to $2 million in a lifetime, because if you make $50,000 for 40 years, that's $2 million right there. But it's all about how much money you're going to have left over after you're done with those like 40 years of work. The average person, when they retire, they have like $60,000, okay? Like $60,000, like not that much money whatsoever. So be careful and be purposeful with whatever you're actually doing. I'll see you guys next time though. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. Comment down below any questions. I'll be in the comments all day. On top of that, also if you want to call me, the link is down below. Calls are free, by the way. On top of that, Instagram, follow me there at TommyBryson. More content here. My face is here. And see you guys later. Long-term team out.